Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Thursday. Brought to you by Anymore Honda. Joined now by the Hall of Famer, Rick Bozich. Rick, how are you, sir?
It's New Year's Day, man. I can't be any better than that.
I know. I looked up and saw it was opening day, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. And I got Rick Bozich on at the same time. This is like Christmas. I know he's a big White Sox fan, and he's got the White Sox hat on. How are the Sox looking this year?
They're picked to finish first or second in the Central with the Twins. One of their better players is out for the year. He hurt himself in spring training, but should have really good pitching. So we'll see. They got the 4 games with the Angels and Mike Trout starting tonight, so we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I'm a Reds fan, which is now like the new Cubs fan. I guess I'm a new Cubs fan. So, man, I can remember the days.
India. That's your guy, Jonathan India.
We'll see if it turns out, man. I'm looking forward to it. But baseball is here and exciting to see. Indiana, of course, a new head coach. And talk about it coming full circle for you. As a student in Indiana, you were here when Bob Knight was here. And now to see it come back around to Mike Woodson, I can't imagine anything coming any more full circle.
You're right. I mean, they tried 4 different guys, gave them all a reasonable shot, except for Kelvin. And I think it was time to go back this route. And I think one of the positives of it is I think you'll see a lot more former players at the game. That's not going to help translate to any wins, but I think behind the scenes they can be supportive of the program more and publicly be supportive of the program more. And whether that has any effects with younger players, hard to say. But I think it'll be interesting to see more former guys around Assembly Hall.
And this is certainly not a unique hire, but it's a unique situation, I guess, how with having Thad Matta as his administrative guy, the talks of potentially bringing in Larry Brown as an advisor. Not that any of that stuff is bad. It's just a little unusual for the college game is all. But, hey, he's a pro guy, and he's trying to check all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about it is they have a plan. I mean, they have a plan. They're trying something different. They're trying something that other places haven't tried. And I think initially Mike Woodson understands the basketball part is the basketball part. Everybody I've talked to said, the coaching is pretty much the same. In fact, it's more demanding in the NBA. And the guy was a head coach in the NBA for 9 years. He knows how to coach basketball. And but the part of it that he doesn't understand is APR and graduation rates and NCAA rules and setting up recruiting visits and relationships with AAU coaches and being the public face of the program, which is a big deal, and which events to do and which ones aren't as important to do and all those kinds of things until he gets up to speed on that. I think having Thad Matta around is a great decision that Scott Dolson made. And it shows a lot about Mike Woodson that his ego, he's secure enough that he's not going to feel like, he's got somebody looking over his shoulder. And then Larry Brown is his mentor. They go back to the Detroit Pistons days when they won a championship. And Larry's done this with other people where he showed up at times and helped coach. So if he does end up coming, I think that's also a plus, Jim.
Yeah, and Thad Matta, his Big Ten knowledge. I mean, he was a Big Ten coach for a long time. He's kind of an Indiana guy. On top of that, he lives in Indianapolis. There are just so many positives that he brings. And Larry Brown, he's just I talked about him. Larry Brown, Rick Pitino, Bob Knight. Those guys, if you could just, they're basketball savants. Their minds are just golden with basketball, and it just pours out of them. And there's no way you cannot be positively affected having that around.
Yeah, and the one thing about Larry Brown is, I mean, he knows college ball too. I mean, he coached UCLA, coached Kansas, he coached SMU. I don't know if there's another one but those 3 are for sure. So he understands the difference between the college game and the NBA game. And because of his long relationship with Mike Woodson, I think that'll end up helping. And, yesterday's news that Kenya Hunter decided to stay, I think that's a plus. He was in demand. There were other programs that wanted him, and he had relationships that he'd already started and built with players from the class of 22, plus Parker Stewart decided to stay. So I think it's been a good first 3 days for Mike Woodson. He's gotten some things done. There's more to do, but I think he's off to a good start.
Yeah, CJ Gunn, a recruit, has already said that he's committed. They've spoken and spoke to his father, and that they're firmly. He said they're a Woodson guy now, a Woodson recruit. I think that while the kids may not know who Mike Woodson is, the fathers know who Mike Woodson is, and I think that's important because of the respect that he brings and the respect that he brings back to the state and to the university, because it had lost that. Everybody talks about culture, but there had been a lot of that lost, and Indiana University was built on that because you're in a state whose own identity is built on basketball. So they kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing throughout all this that made me, I don't know what the right word is, laugh or snicker or whatever, is the people that were writing, that it was too soon to make a change. Anybody who watched Indiana basketball the last year and saw all the different trends, whether it was recruiting had stalled, whether it was, the play was losing and the way they were losing was like this, something's not working here. And the body language on the sidelines and the excitement that fans, I think, pretty much had decided that this wasn't going to work. And once you lose the fan base to the degree that this fan base was lost, it was a move that had to be made. And Mike Woodson is a different kind of personality. I think he's going to show some emotion, good or bad. That's one thing that I think didn't see much emotion. It was all kind of just stone-faced at times. And Mike Woodson, I think, is going to show positive emotion and negative emotion, and I think you're going to see the team be a little bit more engaged that way.
Yeah, and then we have to wait to see assistant coaches. Kenya Hunter, that's a big piece, bringing him back. The other two names or two spots, Michael Lewis is someone whose name comes up to me, of course. Calbert Chaney is another one, because I'm thinking that this also may be the setup for the next setup. That's maybe just thinking ahead, but are they looking ahead? Is Scott looking ahead to that next transition that he didn't think that Michael Lewis was ready yet, or Calbert was ready yet for that head job? But I don't know. Maybe it's too many IU guys. There's also that, because there's some people get infatuated with that IU guy thing. Yeah,
it's possible, but I think you could make the case as you watch UCLA in the Final Four that Michael Lewis's credentials and his profile has shot up in the last month. And, he knows the area. He coached at Butler. He recruited at Nebraska. He knows the turf, on the ground floor of what you need to do to be successful as an assistant coach at a Big Ten school, and now at a very high level, a Pac-12 school. So, and Calbert, he worked at IU for a while under Crean, and then he did work at St. Louis. I just don't know Calbert well enough to know whether he wants to get in there and grind the way an assistant coach has to do at that level, because that's a 60 or 70 hour a week job when you're really hitting it during the time like you'd have to hit it starting off at Indiana, because they've got to get. They got to get more players on the roster. They got to dive into that transfer portal and try and get one or two. And the 2022 class is really important.
Yeah, and Michael Lewis, speaking to him, man, the UCLA, how about that run from first four in, getting to the Final Four, second year with Mick Cronin out there. They had some success last year, but really get it going this year. And it's just been fun to watch them.
I agree. I mean, I remember I wrote about this the other day and tagged Steve Lavin. I was watching a game. Steve Lavin was in the studio back in, I don't think it was January or February, and he was talking about UCLA had Final Four ability, and I about spit out my drink. Thought, what is he talking about? He's a former UCLA coach who's drinking the UCLA Kool-Aid. This is crazy. And they barely made the tournament. They lost their last 4 games, 3 regular season games, the first game in the Pac-12 tournament. They lost their leading scorer, Chris Smith, back in January. And then you watch them play. They could have easily lost that game. All they had to do is Michigan State blocks out on a free throw. They win the game. But then, the uniqueness of college basketball, you win one, you get some confidence, you win the next one against BYU. Then Texas, spits the bit, and they get Abilene Christian. That's an easier win. Then they really, Alabama was playing great. They won the SEC regular season and tournament title, and they beat Alabama pretty convincingly. And now they got confidence. Now Gonzaga is a whole different beast. But, for Mick Cronin to do what he's done, and I think it's important also to remember, tying it back to the Indiana thing, was that, when Mick Cronin went to UCLA, Jamie Dixon is the guy they wanted, but they weren't willing to pay his $5 million buyout. And then they wanted Rick Barnes, and that didn't work out. I mean, Mick Cronin was no better than third, if not fourth or fifth on the list. And now Mick Cronin is a star. So, you know, when you make judgments on coaching decisions, you're better off to wait 2 or 3 years and then make that decision.
Yeah, I forgot about UCLA, that they went through several people, and that was coming off of Steve Alford. So
it took them 100 days to make that hire. 100.
People forget a lot of things. I forgot about that as well. But Gonzaga, now that brings to mind Gonzaga as they're trying to equal the 76 Hoosiers, going undefeated and winning a title. They certainly have their path was made a little easier for them this year. But man, Baylor stands in their way. I think they're the only team that can really challenge Gonzaga with their size, and Gonzaga is a good team. They're just big and they're good.
You know, Gonzaga has been good for a number of years, and this year they're even better because they've got better players. I mean, Jalen Suggs is a legit first-round lottery pick. Corey Kispert is probably a first-round pick. Drew Timme is maybe a first-round pick. They got 3 guys who could get picked. They got some veterans along with youth. They got depth. As a couple of coaches I talked to yesterday saying, you know, they score easier than any team that you know, we've seen play on offense in a number of years. If you're going to beat them, you better be able to score.
Yeah, and they do it well. Michigan was the team I thought was going to be able to get through, even though they lost Isaiah Livers, but UCLA moxied up. But man, the tournament, with all the upsets, Rick, it almost ended up being like a 1-1-1 2-seed Final Four. So that was almost surprising with the crazy amount of upsets for that to have almost ended up happening.
Yeah, other than the Big Ten. Embarrassing performance led mainly by, I'd say, Illinois and Ohio State and Purdue. You know, it's been a pretty chalky tournament, and I think the game everybody wants to see is probably Baylor and Gonzaga. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what the mood is in Bloomington. You know better than me. How do people feel about Kelvin Sampson? Do they want to see him win it all, or is there still Kelvin Sampson?
No, there's still backlash. I mean, I think there was something was in the paper yesterday. It was like, nobody wants to see Kelvin Sampson in the Final Four. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm like, it's just. But yeah, and no, he does not. His name is still Mud in Bloomington. So, but isn't it ironic though that he is in the Final Four? That he went through the 5 years out in the desert that he had to do and all that, and he comes back and makes it back to the Final Four. And not only that, but you had Kansas playing this year. You had LSU playing in this tournament. There's just a whole lot of things that make you shake your head, but. I guess he got back the right way.
Well, I mean, Kelvin has a system, and his teams have been pretty good the last 3 or 4 years since he's been at Houston. They defend. They're very aggressive on defense. They're very strong rebounding team. They're not the tallest team. He switches a lot of screens because he has a lot of interchangeable parts. And what makes them better this year is he has 1 5-star guy, which is he's very comfortable taking transfers. He's been ahead of the curve on that. And he got Quentin Grimes, who was back in the same class with Romeo Langford. Remember, Grimes and Langford were supposed to end up at Kansas, and did go. He's their star. He's their first-round draft pick, dude. So I wouldn't be shocked if Houston beat Baylor. I think that's capable of happening. That should be a close game. But my thing on Kelvin is he served his time. And what he did when he broke the rules at Indiana is not even a violation now. So he served his time. Once you serve your time and you're back, play on.
Yeah, I agree. I noticed one of your pieces, and Rick's at WDRB.com. If you don't know where to find his great writing, you'd be missing out. A piece on Mick Cronin and Scotty Davenport at Bellarmine. Bellarmine is a school. It's in Louisville. Rick's in Louisville, WDRB. But Bellarmine is a school that just entered the Division I. Scotty Davenport is well known from that area. He started at Ballard High School. They had a great run there. And then he turned Bellarmine into a Division II power, national champion. And they moved up to Division I. I had no idea that you had to wait 4 stinking years to be eligible for the tournament. And there was Bellarmine that would have been eligible. And there was another team, I think, that may have won their conference or something that couldn't go. That's the dumbest rule I have ever heard in my life. If you can qualify in your first year, that's pretty damn impressive to me.
Yeah, I think they're talking about speeding up the timetable on that. They could have gone to the NIT. They did go to the CBI and made the Final Four before they lost to Pepperdine. And he's got most of his players back next year. In fact, he's got a kid coming in, I think, from Southern Indiana, Forest Park, Kurt Hopf. Is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got him coming in. Bellarmine, Scotty's trying to do it right. They moved their games to Freedom Hall. And next year they're going to play UCLA and Gonzaga. This year they played Duke.
Wow.
He's Scotty Davenport is a builder. Some coaches are, maintainers. He's a builder.
And it's got to be hard to be doing this in Louisville. This is where the university, when he said Freedom Hall, that's where Louisville used to play their games. The NCAA Final Four has been there. There are so many gigantic events have been there. It's not easy what he's doing.
No, not at all. But he's a promoter. He's a seller. I'm sure if you asked him to be on the show, he'd do it. He gets it. He gets it that it's sports. It's also entertainment, and he's trying to make Bellarmine basketball happening. And this year was tough because of the pandemic, but I think next year, if the restrictions are eased, you're going to see some nice crowds out at Bellarmine games because he's going to get. I wouldn't be surprised if Scotty Davenport gets a game with Iona and gets Rick Pitino back to town. That he would be the one guy, and that he's going to get Tubby Smith and High Point to come in. I already know that much. So Scott Davenport is going to make people pay attention to Bellarmine basketball.
Well, and he's doing just a tremendous job, like I said. But he built Bellarmine on players from Southern Indiana, kind of like a miniature Bob Knight model. It's like Bob Knight was Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, whatever. This was like a miniature Bob Knight model that Scotty Davenport did that down there with some Southern Indiana kids, maybe a few from Kentucky and around. But he did it on local talent, and man, they won a national championship in Division II, but they were always competing for a title.
You're right, and one of the signature players in building the program was the New Albany guy, Braden Hobbs, who's now had a 10-year career over in Germany. Made a lot of money.
With Jordan Hall.
Remember Ladrell Whitehead's, I think it was his son, Chris Whitehead. He played at Bellarmine part of the time. I mean, you're right. You get Southern Indiana guys all the way up to Indianapolis. He gets Cincinnati guys. He gets some, other Illinois guys. He gets, a lot of Kentucky kids. I remember Derek Hobbs, who played not Derek Willis, who played at Kentucky. He had one of his teammates from Bullitt East on the team. I mean, he'll go and watch guys, and he's very cagey about it because I think the word's gotten out that if Scotty Davenport's looking at a guy, some of the other Division I dudes start looking at him too. Says because he knows how to find sleepers, so he's real vague on who he's recruiting if you ever see him at events.
That's great. What do you have coming up next? You've always got something great out. I'm always looking at your stuff. And if you don't follow him, you're missing out, like I said, at WDRB.com.
I'm trying to track more stuff on the IU basketball transition, maybe find some more people that know Mike Woodson and what he did in the NBA, wrapping up spring practice, getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, 10 o'clock tonight, Lucas Giolito against Dylan Bundy in Anaheim, as the White Sox begin the quest to win the AL Central. And I go 162, baby.
Oh, man, he's throwing down the gauntlet early. When's the last time you got to go to an opening day game?
I don't think I've ever been to a White Sox. I've been to Reds opening day games. I was there in 1974, April 3rd, April 4th, I think it was, when Hank Aaron tied Babe Ruth's record against Jack Billingham.
Wow.
I've been to White Sox second game of the year. Alex and I went actually in 2005 when they played the Indians, but I've never been to opening day. But this year with the restrictions and stuff, not going. It's so cold up there. It's risky plans to go up there because you might end up the game might not even be played.
Yeah, I was fortunate to when I was just starting my career. I was working for CBS Sports as a peon, and I was working on some Major League Baseball, and I got to see Michael Jordan take batting practice in the old Comiskey Park.
Okay.
when he was up there for something. And then the very next year they had torn it down. The bricks were there. I had a brick from the facade, and I got to work the first weekend at the new Comiskey Park. I think it was against Detroit. Cecil Fielder was there playing.
Jack Morris.
Yeah, that's my White Sox. I'm not a White Sox fan, but that's my White Sox memories there. So, but fun stuff. It's just all great. I love the history of teams like the White Sox. They're just, doesn't matter about winning or losing. The history is the greatest thing about franchises like those. And man, it's just, I love it. I mean, if you're a sports fan, you have to love franchises like the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, the White Sox and the Tigers and, the Red Sox and teams that have been around for a long, long time in America. I mean, when I first started following baseball, it was 8 teams in each league. The expansion came in 1961 when they brought in, I think it was like the Mets and the Astros in the National League, and the American League was maybe the Twins and the Angels, I think it was. You're right. There are 8 original teams. You had one league, one team made the playoffs, and the only playoffs was the World Series. That goes way back. But the good thing about baseball is that, with the expanded playoffs, more teams now when the season starts feel like they have at least a bit of a chance to get in there. I kind of wish they would have stuck with the plan they had last year where they let 7 teams in, because I think that made the regular season more interesting. The times have changed, and I think you've got to give more fan bases a belief that their team has a chance to get into the postseason. Otherwise, they check out like in June or July.
And I love baseball. It is the greatest for fans. It's just a relaxing environment. You can see so many people that have their routines. They go there. They've got their bag of peanuts. They've got everything set up. It is like they're camped out, and that is going to be their day. And it is their day, and you have to love that, and only baseball provides that.
Yeah, and it's great for storytellers on the radio. I mean, every team, when I was growing up, every team had their signature radio play-by-play guy, whether it was Ernie Harwell in Detroit or,
who was the White Sox guy?
Scully. It was Bob Elson for a long, long time. He was the guy, and then Harry Carey did it for a while, even briefly before he became Benedict Carey and went across town. And John Rooney was really the guy for a while. Do you remember John Rooney? He did the Louisville Bats for the first 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Town, and then he was the White Sox radio play-by-play guy for 15 years. He's now with the Cardinals. But Jack Buck's another one. I mean, you could go on. Bob Prince. Every town had their own radio play-by-play guy, and you identified that one guy with the team.
Rick, man, I cannot thank you enough. It is always a joy having you on here, and look forward to doing it again. And as this IU search or coaching completion continues, we'll continue to follow that and look forward to it, and hopefully getting to see people again at games. That was the biggest loss for the games. It was no fun this year covering games. I'm looking forward to getting back to football and all of that, and seeing people.
Sounds good. We can sit in the press room and have a box of oversalted popcorn.
There you go.
And chocolate chip cookie.
Thank you, sir. The great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Thank you, sir. Join us and make sure you follow him. If you don't, you're missing out on tons of great writing. He's a Hall of Famer. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, of course.